They cut my IT position for budget reasons, then watched their entire system crash without me. Picture this, you're 28 years old, driving your Honda Civic to work every morning at 7:30 a.m. sharp, grabbing your usual McDonald's coffee and egg McMuffin because that's what keeps you going. Your name is Jake Morrison, and you're the sole IT administrator at TechFlow Solutions, a mid-sized marketing firm in downtown Chicago with about 200 employees. Before we begin, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories. Drop a comment below. What's the most shocking betrayal you've ever witnessed? Share your thoughts with our community. Here's the thing about being the only IT guy in a company, you become invisible until something breaks. For 3 years, I kept their entire digital world running like clockwork. Every server, every database, every cloud migration, every security protocol, that was all me. While everyone else got credit for the big client wins, I was the guy making sure their presentations didn't crash during million-dollar pitches. My boss, Richard Steinberg, was one of those corporate climbers who wore expensive suits but couldn't tell the difference between a router and a toaster. He'd pat me on the back during company barbecues and say things like, "Jake keeps the lights on around here." Then he'd go back to talking golf with the sales directors. I thought I was secure. I mean, who else knew the intricate details of our hybrid cloud infrastructure? Who else had memorized every password, every admin login, every backdoor access point? I'd built their entire digital fortress from the ground up. The company was doing well, really well. We just landed a 3-year contract with Walmart for their Midwest advertising campaigns. Revenue was up 40% from last year. New hires were coming in every month. Everything looked golden. I was even planning to ask my girlfriend Sarah to move in with me. Life was good. But here's what I learned about corporate America. When executives start seeing big numbers, they don't think about preserving what got them there. They think about making those numbers even bigger. And apparently, my $65,000 salary was standing between Richard and his next bonus. I should have seen it coming when Richard started asking weird questions about system automation and whether our setup could run itself. But I was naive. I thought job security came from being indispensable. Boy, was I wrong. What happened next would change everything. It was a Tuesday morning in July when my world collapsed. I walked into the office like any other day, badge scanned, elevator to the 3rd floor, ready to tackle the weekly server maintenance I'd scheduled for 9 a.m. But Richard was waiting by my desk with Jennifer from HR and some guy in a cheap suit I'd never seen before. "Jake, we need to talk," Richard said, not making eye contact. Conference room. You know that feeling when your stomach drops and you instantly know something's wrong? That was me, walking into that glass conference room while 3 pairs of eyes stared at me like I'd stolen office supplies. "Jake, we're making some organizational changes," Jennifer started with that fake sympathetic voice HR people perfect in training. "We've decided to streamline our IT operations." Streamline. That's corporate speak for, we're screwing you over but want to sound professional about it. "We're outsourcing IT support to Tech Genius Solutions," Richard jumped in, gesturing to cheap suit guy. "This is Brad Miller, their account manager. They can handle everything remotely for a fraction of the cost." A fraction of the cost. There it was. I sat there, stunned. What about our custom systems? The security protocols I built? The cloud architecture? Brad, who looked like he'd rather be selling used cars, cleared his throat. "We'll need you to document everything and transfer all access credentials to our team." Standard procedure. Transfer all access credentials. Sure, because that's how IT security works. You just hand over the keys to the kingdom to the lowest bidder. "This is effective immediately," Jennifer continued. "We'll need your badge, laptop, and all company property. You'll receive 2 weeks severance pay." 2 weeks. After 3 years of 60-hour weeks, emergency calls at 2 a.m., and keeping their entire business running. But here's the kicker, they wanted me to spend my last day training Brad's team remotely. They wanted me to walk them through every system, every password, every critical process that kept TechFlow alive. I looked at Richard, this man who'd shaken my hand at the Christmas party just 7 months ago, who'd promised me a raise, next quarter, for the past 2 years. "So you want me to document everything and hand over my access today?" "That's right," Richard nodded. "Brad's team will take over tomorrow." I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I said, "No problem. I'll get right on that documentation. But I had other plans. They wanted documentation. Oh, I'd give them documentation. I spent the next 8 hours creating the most technically accurate, completely useless documentation you've ever seen. Every single page was 100% factual and absolutely worthless to anyone who wasn't me. For example, instead of writing, server password is TF2024admin. I wrote, primary authentication credential follows standard company protocol established in Q2 2022, utilizing alphanumeric sequence corresponding to organizational nomenclature and fiscal year designation, with elevated privilege suffix. Technically accurate. Absolutely. Helpful. Not even close. I documented server locations as Rack 7, position 3A, without mentioning that Rack 7 was in the locked storage room on the second floor that only I had access to. I listed IP addresses without subnet masks. I explained backup procedures without mentioning which backups were actually critical and which were just test files. But here's the beautiful part, I didn't lie about anything. Every single word was true. I was following their instructions to the letter. Meanwhile, Brad kept calling me from Tech Genius. Hey Jake, can you walk me through the email server setup? Sure, I'd say. It's all in the documentation I'm preparing. Everything's there. Well, can you just give me a quick overview? I'm really focused on getting this documentation perfect for you guys. Wouldn't want to miss anything important by rushing through it. Brad was getting frustrated, but what could he say? I was doing exactly what they'd asked. Around 4 p.m., Richard stopped by. How's it going with the handover? Great, I smiled. Really thorough documentation. Brad's team is going to have everything they need. Good, good. You know, Jake, this isn't personal. It's just business. Just business. Right. At 5:30 p.m., I submitted my documentation, 47 pages of beautiful, useless technical poetry. I packed my personal items into a cardboard box, handed over my badge and laptop to Jennifer, and walked out of TechFlow Solutions for the last time. Or so they thought. Because here's what Richard, Jennifer, and Brad didn't know, I still had something they couldn't take away. My phone was about to become the most important device in TechFlow's history. That night, I sat in my apartment eating Domino's pizza and thinking about what just happened. Sarah came over after her shift at the hospital, and I told her the whole story. Wait, she said, they fired their only IT person and expect some outside company to just take over everything. That's the plan. But don't you have, like, admin access to everything? And that's when it hit me. In all their careful planning, in all their corporate efficiency streamlining, Richard and his team had forgotten one tiny detail. I was still the only person with administrative rights to their entire cloud infrastructure. See, when you're the sole IT administrator, you don't just have access to company systems, you are the company systems. Every server, every database, every backup, every security protocol runs through accounts that only you control. And when they handed me that laptop to return, that was just my work laptop. All the real administrative access was tied to my personal accounts that I'd set up 3 years ago when I built their cloud infrastructure from scratch. My personal email was the recovery email for their main server admin account. My personal phone number was the two-factor authentication backup for the database systems. My personal Google Authenticator app had all their security tokens. This wasn't malicious planning on my part, this was just how small companies work when they only have one IT person. You use what works, and what worked was using my personal accounts as the safety net for everything. I grabbed my laptop and logged into their systems. Everything was still there. Every server, every application, every critical business function was still under my control. But I wasn't going to do anything malicious. I'm not that guy. I was just going to not do anything at all. The next morning, I got up, made coffee, and checked my email. There were already 3 automated alerts from TechFlow's monitoring systems. Minor stuff, some services needed routine maintenance, a couple of databases were running low on storage space. Normally, I'd log in and fix these issues before they became problems. But today, I was unemployed. So I deleted the emails and went for a run. What happened next was better than any revenge I could have planned. Day 2 of my unemployment started with a phone call at 9:17 a.m. Jake, this is Brad from Tech Genius. We're having some trouble accessing the email server. Can you help us out? I was at Starbucks, enjoying my first stress-free coffee in 3 years. Sorry Brad, I don't work there anymore. Have you tried checking the documentation I left? Well, yeah, but it's really technical. Can you just give me the admin password real quick? I'm not authorized to share company passwords with external vendors. You'll need to go through official channels. Click. By noon, my phone was buzzing every 10 minutes. Brad called 4 more times. Then Jennifer from HR called. Then someone I didn't recognize from TechFlow's accounting department. I sent them all to voicemail. Around 2 p.m., I decided to check TechFlow's public website just out of curiosity. It was running slow, really slow, the kind of slow that happens when your database servers are overwhelmed and your caching systems aren't working properly. By 4 p.m., their website was completely down. That's when Richard called. Jake, listen, we're having some technical difficulties. Brad's team is working on it, but they could use some guidance. Could you maybe just answer a few quick questions? Richard, I don't work for TechFlow anymore. Remember, you streamlined me out of the organization yesterday. Come on, Jake, don't be like this. It's just temporary until they get up to speed. I'm sure they'll figure it out. They're professionals, right? That's why you hired them. The panic in his voice was beautiful. Jake, please. The Walmart campaign launches Monday. We can't have system issues right now. Sounds like you should call your new IT support team. What was the company name? Tech Genius. I'm sure they're working on it. They are, but... Great, then everything should be fine. Good luck, Richard. I hung up and turned off my phone. That evening, I drove past TechFlow's office building. The lights were still on at 9 p.m., unusual for a company that normally cleared out by 6. I could see people moving around on the 3rd floor, probably Richard and his management team having an emergency meeting. But the real chaos was just getting started. Day 3 was when things got interesting. I woke up to 23 missed calls and 47 text messages. Not just from TechFlow, but from people I'd never heard of. Apparently, word was spreading that their entire digital infrastructure was collapsing. The beauty of being a company's sole IT administrator is that you become a single point of failure. When I was there, that was fine because I was reliable. But now that I wasn't there, well, let's just say that streamlined IT operations weren't looking so streamlined anymore. By 10 a.m., their customer portal was down. Their email servers were failing. Their internal communication system had crashed. The automated backup systems I'd built were sending error messages to my personal email every 15 minutes. But here's the kicker, every support ticket that TechGenius created to fix these problems was automatically forwarded to my personal email address. Because I was still listed as the primary technical contact in all their vendor systems. So I was getting real-time updates on exactly how badly Brad's team was failing. Urgent, email server authentication failure, need admin credentials immediately. Critical, database connection timeout, cannot access client data. Emergency, backup systems offline, data at risk. Each ticket was more desperate than the last. And each one was being sent directly to the guy they'd fired to save money. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. Is this Jake Morrison? This is Michael Chen. I'm the CEO of TechFlow Solutions. The CEO, Richard's boss. This was getting good. Hi Michael, what can I do for you? Jake, I'll cut to the chase. We made a mistake. A big mistake. Richard told me you might be able to help us get our systems back online. I'm sorry Michael, but I don't work for TechFlow anymore. You laid me off on Tuesday, remember? For budget reasons. Look, I know this is awkward, but we're prepared to offer you a consulting contract. Double your old salary, just to get us through this crisis. Double my salary. Interesting. That's generous, Michael, but I'm not really available right now. I'm exploring other opportunities. Other opportunities meant sitting in my boxer shorts playing Xbox, but he didn't need to know that. Jake, please. The Walmart campaign launches Monday. If we can't deliver, we'll lose the contract. That's $2.3 million over 3 years. Wow, that sounds serious. Have you tried calling TechGenius? I hear they can handle everything remotely for a fraction of the cost. The silence on the other end was deafening. But I wasn't done with them yet. By Friday morning, TechFlow Solutions was in full meltdown mode. Their website had been down for 3 days. Client emails were bouncing back. The Walmart campaign assets were locked in a database that nobody could access. And Brad from Tech Genius had apparently stopped returning their calls altogether. I was at my local diner, enjoying pancakes and coffee, when Michael Chen walked in. He'd tracked me down. The CEO of a 200-person company had personally hunted down his former IT guy at a breakfast spot in downtown Chicago. "Jake, we need to talk." I looked up from my pancakes. "Sure, Michael, have a seat." He sat down across from me, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "Name your price." "I'm sorry. Whatever you want. Salary, benefits, equity, title. Just name it. We need you back." I took a sip of coffee. "That's interesting. What happened to streamlining IT operations?" "We made a mistake." "What kind of mistake?" "We underestimated the complexity of our systems. And we underestimated your value to the company." I nodded thoughtfully. "So let me get this straight. You fired me to save money, handed over your entire digital infrastructure to the lowest bidder, and now you want me to fix the mess." "Yes. And you're willing to pay me whatever I want." "Within reason, yes." I leaned back in my booth. "Here's the thing, Michael. I don't want my job back." His face went pale. "But," I continued, "I am willing to fix your immediate crisis. As an independent contractor, my rate is $500 per hour, minimum 40 hours billed, payment in advance. $500 an hour. That's my emergency rate. If you'd rather wait for Tech Genius to figure things out, that's fine too." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. "Jennifer, cut a check for $20,000 to Jake Morrison." "Yes, $20,000. I'll explain later." 30 minutes later, I had a check in my hand and remote access to TechFlow's systems. It took me exactly 6 hours to fix everything they'd broken. 6 hours to restore 3 days of chaos. By 6 p.m. Friday, their website was running, their emails were flowing, and their Walmart campaign was ready to launch. But the real victory wasn't the money. The real victory was the email I got from Sarah that night, saw the news about TechFlow's system outage in the tech blog. Heard they had to pay their former IT guy $500 per hour to fix it. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Winking face. Word had gotten out. The entire Chicago tech community knew that TechFlow had fired their IT administrator and then had to pay him consultant rates to save their company. Richard Steinberg became a cautionary tale. Michael Chen learned an expensive lesson about the difference between cost and value. And me, I started my own IT consulting firm. Turns out, there are a lot of companies who need someone who actually understands what they've built. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. Sometimes it's just letting people experience the natural consequences of their own decisions. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, they'll pay you $500 an hour to watch them learn that lesson. Jake Morrison now runs Morrison Tech Solutions, a boutique IT consulting firm specializing in unfireable system architecture. He drives a Tesla now, and Sarah moved in last month. They're very happy.